All right. In this video, we are going to talk about your email infrastructure. This is probably the most tedious task that you need to set up in order to send your email campaigns. And sometimes it gets really confusing, but it's actually much more straightforward than you might think. Um, it's just you need to know what you're looking at, what numbers, and like how to troubleshoot some things. And so when we run our email infrastructure for clients, what we do is a multi-domain, multi-inbox approach. And so this is just one of the ways that you can start your email campaigns. And so I'm going to talk about why we do this and some alternatives. The reason why we use a multi-domain, multi-inbox approach is because no matter how great your campaign is, people are going to mark you as spam. And when you get marked as spam, the reputation of your domain and the reputation of your inbox goes down. If you are using the same domain and the same inboxes to run cold email campaigns as you're using for your customer communication, your investor communication, your marketing email communication, your internal communication, well, maybe not internally, but that might be said. If the reputation of those domains and those inboxes go down because you're using them for cold email, your customers are going to start having emails go to spam, and it's going to turn into issues. You're not going to be able to communicate them, and at worst, if you're running ads to add people to your marketing email list and those emails are going to spam, you're like wasting money on building this list. And so that's like the biggest reason. This is not the only way to send emails. I want to be very clear about this. um, you can also send emails from subdomains. We have one customer that's doing this right now, and we get them like 78% open rates. We get great inbox rates for them. And then you could also send from private SMTPs like SendGrid, or actually for cold email, I probably would only send from SendGrid, to be completely honest. This approach is the approach that we have found is one, the best ROI, two is also the most scalable and modular, and three is just the most reliable. And so you could do all of the rest of these things, but this is the most important stuff. One more disclaimer: nothing is as important as getting your list and your offer correct. As long as you do those things, you could send from your main domain. If you got your offer dialed in and nobody's marking you as spam and you're sending to the correct list, you could just keep going, and like, you could send from your main domain. Nothing's going to happen. But most of us, like, we can't do that. But like, and also there's people who are going to mark us as spam it no matter what. I tell this story. I was at a conference, and I was going to all the vendors, and I was talking to them about their email deliverability setups and this, that, and the other thing. And I talked with one guy, and he said, Eric, I send from our main domain, and we have 10 sales reps who each send 200 emails from each of their inboxes. We send from our main domain and we get a 65% open rate. Do you think we have the problem? And I told them, no, you actually probably don't have the problem. Everything points to the fact that you're actually doing fine. And so I want you to see all of this. And actually, I checked their domain and they didn't even have a DMARC set up, which we're going to talk about in this DNS authentication section. But the reason I mention all of this is because all of these things are best practices. If you're already getting results, the reason I would still recommend to do this is because one day there could be a problem and you don't want to wait 3 weeks to warm up domains. You want to just have them on constant rinse and repeat, that you'd be able to just swap them in. We have internally 60 domains and 120 inboxes. So if I ever wanted to try any kind of campaign, we're ready to go and we can launch them immediately. And so, yes, you can send from your main domain if you like, but you are running that risk. And this multi-domain, multi-inbox approach is the one that we found works the best. And so when we're doing like multi-domain, multi-inbox, what we're doing is we're essentially buying multiple domains that look like your domain. And so it's like gogrowthenginex.com, getgrowthenginex.com, that kind of stuff, right? And we're buying like 10 of these. And we'll talk about the math behind this pretty soon. And so always stick to buying .com domains and try to include your brand in the domain as well. What I will say is that not everybody, 10% of our customers come to us and they're concerned about what the domain looks like to the recipient. And while I think that matters, remember that with your DNS authentication and your setup and everything, you can forward getgrowthenginex.com to growthenginex.com. So if anybody looks up the domain, it'll go straight to your website. So all of your marketing is still going to be lined up. We get tons of responses actually. My burner domain setup is like a variation of like simpleautomation.com. We don't own that. I like have many variations of that domain. And that's our burner domain setup. One of my burner domains is go simple automation hqaccess.com, and we get responses to that one. It doesn't have a brand. It points to Growth Engine X. It kind of doesn't make sense, and like it totally works. So don't get too hung up on the domains that you buy. Make them look good. Like we still want them to look good. I'm not saying to buy crappy domains and it's going to work. Like still buy good looking domains, but don't get too hung up on them being perfect. Always stick to buying .com domains. .co is okay. This whole email infrastructure, you need to think about what does a spammer do and how can I do the opposite of it? And so spammers will buy like facebook.xyz and that just like looks, it's just a problem. Like don't do that. Stick with Google and Outlook for your inboxes. The reason why we use Google and Outlook is it looks totally normal to send 50 emails a day from a Google account. Like it's not unheard of for people to legitimately do that. Maybe it's a little bit heavy to be doing that every single day, but it's not unheard of for people to do that. And so what we do is we just hide amongst the crowd of everybody else who's sending that kind of volume. And we, that makes up like cold email is like, only a small percentage of all of the real email that goes on. And so as Gmail cracks down on spam, you have to remember that they can only crack down on spam to the point that it doesn't affect other users. And so if a user were to sign up and then start sending messages to people that have never received an email from them before, but they know who they are and they're just sending email that's not in their contacts, like they always have to allow for that to happen. They can never shut that down. You like a student is going to be reaching out to a company about a job, opening. Like that's always going to happen. And so they will never be able to crack down on spam or cold email 100% because it'll start affecting users too much. So that's why we stick with these. Anytime I've tried to get away from Google and Outlook, it's always burned me in the face and it like goes completely wrong. So I don't step away from Google and Outlook. I just stick with these inboxes. If I had a preference, I don't know, maybe I like Google. This is also October 2023. Things change in the email game all the time. Who knows? And so that's like a quick top level over that. DNS authentication. You need to make sure you get your SPF, DKIM, DMARC, MX records, forwarding, and custom tracking set up. So SPF, DKIM, when you set up your inboxes, the platforms will tell you how to set these up. You really shouldn't have to think about these too much. This is just a check mark that you need to think of. DMARC is one that people miss all the time. I see this all the time that people don't have a DMARC record on their domain because it's not 100% necessary, but in today's emailing environment, it's really necessary. And so you need to set up a DMARC record. You can Google how to do this. It's so easy to do this. I'm not even going to include a tutorial right now because it's that easy to do. MX record gets set up when you're setting up inboxes usually. Forwarding, just look up how do you do like a 301 redirect on your DNS hoster. I use GoDaddy. And so you literally could just forward go growthenginex.com to growthenginex.com. So if anybody types it in, you get that. And then the tool that you use to send email, which we're going to go over next, is they're going to have a custom tracking domain set up. You just want to follow their tutorials to set that up. So now we'll talk about mass email sequencing tools. So the old guard of mass email sequencing tools is like Outreach, SalesLoft, maybe Pardot. I don't know. Companies like that, right? Lemlist. And so what these platforms do is they log into your Gmail account and they're sending emails on your behalf from your Gmail inbox. What these companies do though is they charge. Oh, Apollo does this too. These companies all charge based on how many users you have, and so the new companies, and I don't know, like the new companies that we recommend is SmartLead.ai and Instantly.ai. And I think I have suggestions for people whenever you're using these. So Instantly AI is more user friendly and it's easier for a person to just get started and just get going. They have a leads database. It's really great. Just you can get started on there. Smart Lead AI is really great if you like really need to do custom integrations. You want to work with their API and that kind of stuff. And so what these companies did that's so different is these companies charge per seat. These companies just charge by how many leads you have in like on your platform. So when you're doing this multi-domain, multi-inbox approach, if you have 20 inboxes for one salesperson, which I don't totally recommend, if you have 20 inboxes for one salesperson on outreach, that's going to be like $2,000 a month that you have to pay. Smart Lead and Instantly, they don't charge you per inbox, so it's just a flat rate of $100 a month or whatever their pricing is. I don't know, whatever it is. And so that's why we suggest using these tools, is because they don't charge for each user. So like Apollo's catching on to this, Lemlist is catching on to this. These tools probably won't do anything about this. And so we always use these tools. Whenever you're thinking about sending these mass cold emails, you always want it to come from the Gmail inbox. If you attach a Google account to one of these tools and you either OAuth into the account or you like set up an SMTP integration with your inbox, the tool is okay. If you're looking at a tool like HubSpot, MailChimp, or Constant Contact, these tools are not set up for sending cold emails. The technology is similar, but it's not the same. HubSpot is set up for sending marketing emails. People who have opted into your list and they say, hey, I want to be on this list. Email me. I'm here. And I'll unsubscribe if I ever get, I want to be off this list. Totally different than a person that you're cold emailing. And so here the technology is different. There's this thing called an SMTP, which is like the technology that all of these companies are sending email by. Gmail's SMTP, they control the IP addresses. They know what's going on. They can track your reputation, all of those things. HubSpot is going to give you an SMTP from SendGrid. And when you send those emails out, the SMTP's reputation, if you're using it to send cold email, is going to go down. And it's not going to be a successful campaign from you. So HubSpot, MailChimp, and Constant Contact, well, HubSpot Marketing, they're all sending from like a private SMTP server or a shared SMTP server. And they're either going to kick you off the platform for doing that because it's against their terms of service and they don't want you doing that. Or they're just going to give you like a 7% open rate. It's going to be really, really, really terrible. And so use these for marketing emails. Do not use those for cold emails. So the way that you know that the email sequencing tool that you're using is good, besides all of the other integrations, is if you OAuth into the account and you're sending from your actual Google inbox or your burner Google inboxes, that's the tool you need to be using. All of the other features, you can figure out what your preference is. So Smart Lead and Instantly AI are the tools that we talk about here. Email warm-up. Okay. What is email warm-up? Email warm-up is a process where you build the reputation of your domain and your inbox. Again, remember, whatever spammers do, we want to do the opposite of what spammers do. What spammers do is they buy a domain, they get an inbox, and they start ramming cold emails. We don't want to do that. What a warm-up network does is you join a network of, say, 100,000 other inboxes that are in the warm-up network. And you consent to the warm-up network and you say, hey, automatically send emails from my inbox to people in the warm-up network. Those people have promised not to mark me as spam. And the technology is also going to, like, if my email does go to spam, it'll get saved and stuff like that. And so I'm going to send them email. They're going to send me emails. We're going to build our reputation together. And so now Google can't track these warm-up networks because, again, they can only affect users to the point that it doesn't affect regular users. And so it's totally normal for you to get a new domain, get an inbox, and send 5 emails a day. And then the next day you send 10. And then the next day you send 15. That's totally, totally normal. And so that's what these email warm-up tools are doing. Smart Lead and Instantly do it for you. And so, Instantly really broke the game with like their offer when they first came out. And so the email warm up then builds the reputation. So you warm up your emails for 3 weeks. We're going to go over the numbers right after this. You warm up your emails for 3 weeks. You start running a campaign. You send those inboxes on your list and then Google looks at your reputation and they say, oh, as far as we're concerned, they've sent emails for 3 weeks and they've been sending 50 emails a day for a week. They've never been flagged as spam. They look good. And that's how you're able to get the inbox delivery that you want. And so that's what email warm-up is and that kind of thing. So let's talk about the numbers, right? And so how long should you warm inboxes? 3 to 4 weeks. Here's the thing with warming inboxes. If you can wait 3 to 4 weeks, the inbox placement rate and the longevity of the inbox is going to be really, really optimal. It's really great if you can wait 3 to 4 weeks. It inboxes really well. They don't burn as quickly. 3 to 4 weeks is kind of that sweet spot that we found. If you can warm longer, like it's October right now. If you want to send emails during Thanksgiving in December, you should set up inboxes now and then warm them for 2.5 months. They would be really, really great by the time you get started. But for most people, 3 to 4 weeks, that's all they can kind of wait. Totally cool. Here's the thing with email warmup that's kind of an aside. If you are a founder who you need leads now, you can still follow all of these processes. The email structure, the multi-domain, multi-inbox approach. And if you need to get started now, you don't actually have to wait for the 3 to 4 weeks of warm up. You can wait for 2 weeks and it's going to work pretty well. Or if you can do the extra work, you can start the campaign immediately. Just know that the inboxes are going to burn in like a week or two, and you're going to have to set up more. So if you need to get started right away, you could set up more inboxes, launch the campaign, and instead of sending 50 emails a day, which we're going to go into, you send like 10 or 15 emails a day, you could still get started. So I want you to know about that caveat. But we warm for 3 to 4 weeks. We do five emails per day as a warm up, and we add 5 each day. So this is basically like day 1, 5 emails are going to get sent. Day 2, 10 emails are going to get sent. Day 3, 15 emails are going to get sent. And we do a 50 email cap. So it keeps adding per day 5 more emails until we get a 50 email cap per day. And then we're looking for a 32% response rate on warm up emails. So this actually there's no science to this at all. I just put 32% just because. Yeah, don't put 100% because, again, think about how that looks to Google. You send emails, and then for 3 weeks, 100% of the people were responding, and then you start a cold email campaign, and then nobody responds. Like, that looks really weird. So always do like a 20 to a 40% response rate on the warm-up emails. And so when you launch your campaign, so it'll be like during the campaign, we send 50 emails per day per inbox. So yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it means. So we send 50 emails per day per inbox. It's 2023 right now in October. Probably in 2024, we're going to switch this to like 30 or something. But for now, we're going to keep it the same. We changed the email warm up to 10 emails per day with a 100% response rate. And then the other thing, and so now the only other math that you would need to know about this is like, all right, if you want to send 500 emails per day, how does that math work out? So like I said, we send 50 emails per day. We do 2 inboxes per domain. So now I don't really have the science on like, setting up 2 inboxes is better than 3 inboxes. I really don't have that. But what we have found is if we set up like 5, that domain does get burned faster. So like 2 to 3 is kind of our range. So if you want to send 500 emails per day, 500 emails per day turns into, let's see, so it's just 500 divided by 50, right? So then it's 10. So it turns into 50 emails per inbox. I need 10 inboxes to get to 500, which means I need 5 domains. So then the other thing that I would say is always set up backup domains. They're cheap enough that, so you're buying 5 domains here and you're getting 2 inboxes on each of those domains. Buy another 3 and put 2 inboxes on them because you always want to be able to hot swap them in and out. In another module, we'll be talking about how to set up inboxes one by one. I made a note for myself. We'll talk about how to set up inboxes one-on-one and then also how to do it with automation. That'll be a separate module on how to do that for Outlook and how to do that for Google. And here are some just questions that come up pretty often. And so one, does this affect my SEO? So this is a big question. People get they ask me this, not all the time. It's like a fifth of the time people are asking this question. Does this affect my SEO? Absolutely not. So the hypothesis here is, okay, so we're sending emails from gogrowthenginex.com. Um, Google isn't an idiot. Would If we start getting spam complaints on this domain, would growthenginex.com's SEO be affected? So I've never seen any evidence of this before, and it's never happened, knock on wood, to any of our clients, right? The but so that hypothesis sounds good because you're like forwarding them and there's a connection, and Go Growth Engine X goes to Growth Engine X, and all of those things. The hypothesis sounds good, but I'll give you another hypothesis. If that were true, what I could just do is set up domains that look like my competitors and then try to sell Viagra over email, and then just completely torch those domains and then ruin their SEO. So I don't think that's something that's ever going to happen, because then that would be such a hack to like ruin somebody else's SEO. Is because anybody can buy a domain that's similar to your brand name and forward it to you. They don't need permission. They don't need anything to be able to do that. So I don't think that's ever really going to happen. Does the domain that I buy matter how it looks? We talked about it in the beginning. Yes, like make it as close to your brand name as you possibly can. We try to do that when we do it on behalf of our clients. But if your domain, like one person, their domain was 3letters.com, like it was a 3-letter word and then .com, we can't just buy like try the 3-letter words and then .com. Like it would be too expensive. And so for them, we added like one prefix. Like I think we added like automation to the prefix, and then we permutated those. So that's just trying to make it look as great as you can. I went over this. Can we just send from our main domain? You have all of these risks if you do that. If you need to send from your main domain, at least use a subdomain. Those domains do have a separate reputation to the main domain, so try to do that. Okay, and here's a question we get all the time. Aren't spammers the only one that have to think about this? So basically, the question is, if we're sending out relevant emails to the right list and we're doing a good job and we're checking all of the boxes, shouldn't we not have to do this? Like, isn't this only something that hackers have to do? And so what I say to that is, no matter what and how good your email is, people are going to mark it as spam. One time I ran a campaign. It was a campaign meant for a Sunday, and it was a Sunday during a huge conference in San Francisco. I think it was the Salesforce conference. What is the Dreamforce? So it was a Sunday when Dreamforce was approaching, and what we did was we automatically pulled in the weather in San Francisco, so that like we would basically say like, hey, I just wanted to send an email to you because I saw your company was doing XYZ. I'm the founder of this company. So I'm just going through my Sunday chores just like I thought you would be. The only reason I broke my rule of introducing myself is because I wanted it to be obvious that it was a founder to founder email. And then we said something about like, hey, uh, as Dreamforce is about to take over the city, are you thinking about this? And then we got into our pitch. P.S. I saw that it was 75 degrees in San Francisco today. I hope you make the most of it before Dreamforce comes around. Somebody still emailed us back and said, stop spamming me. I marked you as spam. And I was like, okay. We sent it to like 200 people. And like one person said that. And I was like, okay. It was like all the timing and everything still came together. And it was like, all right, whatever. Totally cool. So people are going to mark you as spam no matter how great your campaign is. And that's just the way that it is. I think another thing that I do want to, like, I see this all the time, is if you're not confident about the numbers, right? As long, like, when I say the numbers, I mean like how many emails should you send per day? How many emails should you send per day? How long should you warm up? All this stuff. If you're not sure about that stuff, as long as your SPF, DKM, DMARC, and all of this other stuff is set up, freaking just start the campaign. I see so many people getting so hung up by the numbers, and they went their whole lives doing cold email and not knowing about email deliverability, and then they like learn about it for a week and it just paralyzes them. Don't let it paralyze you. Always be trying to do the best practice, but if it's stopping you from launching a campaign, just launch. Don't get so hung up. One time we accidentally, this is when I first started. So if you're thinking about working with us, this doesn't happen anymore. But this was when I was still setting up inboxes for my agency. And there was a customer that I completely forgot to set up inboxes for. and we needed to launch their campaign in 2 days. Another part was because it was kind of like a nonprofit that we were just doing, like, you know, like at cost. It was a really cheap campaign. And so I forgot to set up their inboxes. The first day we sent emails. So I set up their inboxes, and the next day we launched the campaign. The first day I sent out emails, I sent like 15 emails per inbox, and we had like an 80% open rate. And then I was just like, all right, let's just try. And then I ramped it to 50 emails per day, and we kept that 80% open rate. And so, like I said, you don't have to do any of this as long as the people on the other side of your campaign are responding positively to your campaign. This is all kind of moot points. So the thing that I would just keep in mind is nothing is as important as your offer. Nothing is as important as your list. Everything else is kind of secondary, but these are one of the things that's really, really important. And if you're getting like low open rates, it's one of the first things that you should be checking. But my main point here is don't let these numbers paralyze you. Just get started with the campaign and don't hold yourself back from getting started. Um, and so, yeah, this is the email setup that we use. You can find more information at smartlead and instantly.ai. They have great documentation on this. And yeah, a lot of what we do is exactly what they suggest to do. We did not reinvent the wheel here. So get after it. Let's get going. The next modules will show how to set up the Outlook and the Google inboxes and things like that.